discussion panel. I will introduce each one of you and then we'll go through the questions and debates I'd like to have around this table. Olga Turisheva from MVideo. You are the Director of Marketing and Electronic Services in MVideo. You are leading the marketing of this omni-channel company, I believe, where sustainable experience is really defined throughout all the channels with a special attention to the services. Now, Alexei Nemeruk will join later from the Moscow City government. He's the head of Trade and Service Department, focusing on trade fairs and small businesses. Will be interesting in what small businesses means. Jean-Christophe Bonis from Oxymore. You are the founder and CEO of Oxymore. You focus on technology and innovation. Your latest focus seems to be artificial intelligence, but I'm sure you have a lot more to tell us about innovation. Andrei Klenin from Wikimart. You are the general director. If I am not mistaken, you come from an online pure player to Wikimart, and you focus on delivering products within 1,000 cities. Is that correct, or with in time, as I understand? Danny Perikalski from Ozone. You are the CEO. You come from offline pure players, if I am not mistaken, from Metro, Cash and Carry, Dixie. The transition is quite interesting. How do you go from pure player offline to online? You've developed the Dixie Orange neighborhood grocery store, and you enhance or you feature 19 methods of payments and delivery to your customers. So we'll talk a little more about this in a moment. I will propose to you and the people around to have a series of statements, and I will ask each one of you or some of you to react to these statements. In order to have a discussion, I would kindly invite you to be short in your answers so that we keep the pace and the interest of our auditory. So, alors, I need to go there. Alors. So we are talking about technology. This urban forum is focusing on technology, but is it really about technology? Do people care about technology? Do our customers care about technology when you are retailers? Do we care about technology? Do we know what we have behind our smartphones and how it works? What kind of technology help us shop and search? We believe at ADG that what matters is the fulfillment of what the customers are really looking for. The customers really focus on get what they want, how they want it, whenever they want it. I will start with Jean-Christophe. What is the place in your mind? I mean, what is the place of technology in the consumer's mind? When you work, when you advise companies, where do you start from?
That's an interesting question. In fact, most of the time the people I'm working with don't have a very clear idea about what is happening. That's a big problem, in fact. I think two approaches need to be done. The first one is user experience. We need to focus on users. In retail, you have something like a concept or kind of gold numbers. Place. In our market, that's consumers. I see too many people working on application, working on some website, and that's so complicated just to buy. With some very easy way, more than 3 clicks, we are losing everybody. It's my first focus. Second focus, to try to explain the different company I'm working with about the fact that technology is interesting, but technology without branding is nothing. We need to make the mix between technology and branding, because the technology for the moment is changing totally the link between brands and consumers. So it means that tomorrow people without this link, brands without this link, not strong brands without this link, will lose the power in front of consumers. It will not be anymore anything, and we will speak about, I think, later when we will ask me about artificial intelligence.
Thank you very much. Any of you wants to elaborate on this?
Я, можно тогда добавлю эту тему?
I would like to add a few words.
So the audience, Russian, so.
Okay. Really, brand is important, and when we talk
Подход как видео следующий. То есть для нас принципиально,
Video, it's worthy to mention that if a person has some need to purchase electronics or household appliances, so he realizes that he has to go to M-Video and buy something, and then we have to take care on that particular person, so that to organize his purchase. 5 years ago, we had offline and online channels, but afterwards, we decided to introduce a smart omni-channel system. And it's hard to say exactly who is buying from where. And more than 70% start looking for certain goods in the internet. Then they come to the offline store, and then they follow some responses in the internet, and then they purchase something. But if this good is not in the internet list, so we offer him to buy it via our omni-channel system. And the level of price and the level of service and the range of goods, all of it is one and the same. And it doesn't matter from where you buy it.
Do you want to react to this?
Могу добавить, что технология
Yes, I may add that from my perspective, we do have this technology available, and we live with this technology. And there are quite a number of opinions in place, and so we cannot do without any tools like smartphone and other devices. And so the question arises, what kind of technology is that? It's part and parcel of human life, and it's a part of their existence. And our key goal is to adapt the brand to the everyday life so that it is conjugated with the existing technologies. And that is how we do develop. And I will just partially agree with our colleagues, and I would like to add something. Indeed, if we have the omni-channel technology, the client should become the focal point of your company, and that is not in the pipeline of the majority of companies. Sometimes they focus on their brand, and that's it. No, people do not think very much of their customers. And the second thing to mention, these are IT technologies, and IT solutions of the company should be supported by the omni-channel system. And if it were not for that, so we won't achieve any success, as the technologies are available, but the system may not work without the business processes. Sometimes the company cannot exercise the multi-channel trade. If the logistics channel, if the refund channel does not work and is not effective. And so the combination of all these factors take care of the successful implementation of the model we are discussing.
All of these topics later on in the discussion. I would like to welcome Mr. Nemeruk from the Moscow city in charge of the trades. Thank you very much for welcoming.
Thank you.
Now the next topic is about the actual customers. You've been talking about your focus on human being, users, with smart system. You all focus on the people, but the people, they jump from offline online with no limits. So there is not actually for them any difference between these channels. Danny, would you please explain to us, you come from a pure offline player to a pure online player. You are very strong on online, pure online players, as you said just before. Isn't like having half of the picture by working only on one of these two?
сегодня это меньше, чем half of
Indeed, it is not out of the picture. We have 3% of the entire picture as online. Today constitute 3% of all the trades in the internet. And online is rapidly developing versus offline, and that is the obvious trend in Russia. And Russia is lagging behind China, the United States, the UK, France, and other countries. And a certain percent of their trade is exercised at this level, and Russia has only 3%. Indeed, we do have quite a number of customers offline and online, and the majority of customers live in offline. Some live both in offline and online, and some prefer just online. But if you prefer online, so this is the most advancing group and dynamically developing, and that is the trend of our life.
As you are moving offline with some projects in shops, how would you treat this offline and online dichotomy? Is there really a difference between the two?
And indeed, our company started as a marketplace, having partners only at the level of internet stores, but as this market is a minor one, we started thinking as how to get developed, and we should use other technologies like e-commerce. And as of the past year, we are offering to online our company's offline services, and we are also having POS and organize all the logistics, and also we offer some goods online, and that is the self-penetrating, I should say, overlapping process, and it will grow further.
To elaborate a little more on this topic?
Ну, я хочу сказать, что
I would like to state that it is an absolute truth that the customers, in practical terms, do not differentiate between the channels, offline and online. And let me cite some statistics. And NVIDIA has quite a ramified retail network. So for us, the online channel development meant the point of growth. And it allowed us to rationalize our offline network. And 70% of all the trades are made in online, and then they use our stores to pick up these goods. Why does it happen so? Much depends on the category of good. But if we have like an average bill, and the look and feel is a substantial factor, so the majority of people prefer to come on the POS and also see what they are buying. And they may provide at this POS some extra services and accessories. And we are absolutely sure that the offline players come closer to the online sector, and it becomes absolutely indispensable for business. Otherwise, we won't survive and develop further, and we really have to be customer-oriented.
That you won't survive if you are not on both channels or omni-channels. That's a point that I'd like to come back later on. Before we go further, I'd like to have a look at the omni-channel profitability, because that's a big point for all of us. Seems that the customer drives the show, where maybe retailers don't really want to go, or not all the places. Mr. Nemeric, you are in charge of the small business in Moscow City, if I'm not mistaken. You are easing the small business development. How do you see the small businesses taking on board of this deep trend in Moscow?
Добрый день еще раз всем.
Good afternoon, everybody. The point is that I'm not only in charge of the SME. We have a specific department to support SME. And the Department of Trade is in charge of the entire trading system of Moscow. And we've announced the topic on the omni-channel trade, and it's gaining momentum. But I cannot tell you for sure that only 16% of the company resort to that structure of trading. That 16% satisfy the needs of customers and deriving the profit. But since we communicate with the major players at this market, I should admit that the growth of customers is obvious, not necessarily for look and feel products and for other products, but they have to look through some responses and compare them with other models, and our statistics are for that, and that it is that the statistics are growing. And the question arises, to what extent we may satisfy the needs of a customer, and especially vis-a-vis those companies which do operate at the market and be focused on the online productions. But sometimes these are the major international players who are present at this market as well. But the prospects of that particular market development are successful even in the presence of the major retailers, and they come to that market and they would like to provide at maximum the pertinent service to their client, and you know the set of goods you would like to purchase, and we are prepared to deliver these goods at home. It is a kind of a standard set of services to be provided, and we are accustomed to them. But on the other hand, if you would like to purchase something new and you saw some ad or commercials, and you may just come to the POS and realize whether you are willing or not willing to buy a certain commodity. And we may have some kind of a stationary trading points. We have some logistics and some loyal customers for a specific store. That's true. But online trades just contribute to the entire turnover of the company. Andrei mentioned it. We see this obvious trend. But sometimes online trade is not very competitive. Even a good-looking picture and a description and a response might not be enough. We may get some feedback from Muscovites. They sometimes complain and the good was not of satisfactory quality, and it was not the same goods as presented at the picture. And SMEs, to take care of some unique products, tried to make the service for this online purchases a more satisfactory one. And we think that this omni-channel trades will be successful in the future.
Jean-Christophe, now how technology can help improve the profitability of an affordable investment point?
I will answer your question, but before I would like to some interesting point about what you were speaking about offline and online. It's very interesting to see when you are looking around, not only in Russia, but in States, in New York and in Asia, how people in retail are doing. If you are going, for example, in New York, you see some pure player in retail offline, doing the same strategy that the pure players like Amazon online. You see Amazon opening shops. You see a brand called Bonobos in retail, in fashion retail for men, opening concept store where you are going inside the retailers, you are going inside the shop for buying or for just testing, going out after without paying directly, but you can have advice, you can have everything, and that's 5 times the rate of the market of how people are buying. What I mean is there is a lot of concept now arriving, and everything is around the consumer. So I totally understand the business point of all of us, but the big problem is we need to focus on the consumers, and by definition, that the consumers who is deciding. More you will give to the consumers as service, going to the shop. Look at what is happening in Paris, for example, with Amazon Prime for the problematic of food. You are going, you can go on internet, buy most of your food, and 1 hour later you will have it arriving in your home. It means that it's not only a question of business for my side, it's also a question of concept and what we are proposing to the consumers. To answer your question now about the technologies, definitely we have a mix between 2 technologies that are arriving and very fast. First one is the fact that we are now, but we will know everything about everybody and much better than themselves know themselves. Just by using pictures, we will know exactly the mood of people. We will know exactly how people are feeling when they will arrive in the shop or when they will arrive on your website. So we will be able, by using data, to focus on exactly what people want at the moment they are arriving. I loved your presentation at the beginning when you told people now want everything at the moment they want without any problem. It's the first thing. But the second thing is artificial intelligence. Look at Amazon, I'm sorry again, but Amazon Echo. What is Echo doing? Alexia, you know, these small things arriving on the market. They were on Super Tuesday promoting that $100 million for just this show. What does that mean? It means that Amazon and all the company, because Google did the same, Yandex is working on it, is trying to put artificial intelligence in the middle of the link between brands and consumers. You want to buy some books? Tomorrow you will have Amazon and you will just ask Alexa to buy the book for your children. And the big problem is the fact that you are not, as a consumer, deciding anymore about what you will buy. But that's the artificial intelligence that will decide for you depending on your test and depending on all the data we will have about you. And that's something very important in good and bad way, I think, for all of us.
Thank you very much. Anyone wants to elaborate, to respond to all of these references from Amazon? Is there any reference from Ozone or Wikimart?
I can just, могу сказать несколько трендов, может быть.
I can describe several trends which may be interesting. Well, for example, omni-channel online, you should respond to that, in particular in our life. I would like to discuss several trends. Also about 70%, well, they buy at peak point and online, pick-up point. But if we talk about future here, the future of Russia is the current situation in Moscow. In Moscow, 70% receive their goods with courier, and we see well, that Moscow accounts for nearly 50% of our business and one of the most rapidly growing cities in our business. In Moscow, we observe 2 very important trends. A mother with children, more and more mothers who stay at home with their children, and they assess this convenience that they don't need to visit a store. And this group of buyers is steadily increasing. They buy only online and explain that, thanks God I don't have to go to a shop, I can stay with my children at home. It's in particular very important for Moscow. The second group is very interesting for business centers. We see that in office blocks we see more and more people who make their orders and receive their orders when they work, and more of our couriers visit office blocks. And these are two trends that we see in Moscow, and we understand that this trend will expand to the entire Russia. And when people make an order in the before noon and receive it afternoon, the goods, we see this trend is steadily growing in Moscow, and we understand that the future situation in Russia is the current situation, current behavior in Moscow. And I am positive that while there may be some changes for other cities.
Я просто скажу, наверное...
I will add a few things about the fact that what consumers want now, and have plenty of information about the purchases that they want to make, is a fact now. We oftentimes see in supermarkets people who look at their smartphones to check the prices of the competition. The same thing in online. When a person makes a purchase in online, he opens several pages with competing online stores. There is a well-known search tool which opens on a page, and he show prices on their in their stores for the goods that you are selecting. We had to fight this plugin tool to prevent it opening on our page, and we launched an experiment and allowed this to exist. And tests demonstrated that the difference is barely 0.02%. But interesting, when tools works, when you see it on the page, the conversion of the website is higher than when we close it. It means that shoppers have more trust with the shops who are not afraid of their competition. And you have a competitive price. If you have a good offer, you shouldn't be afraid that shoppers may find other offers in the market. But at the end of the day, they will buy from you. I will add one thing. We talk about technology in their client or in the shopper context. But I would like to, talking about the omni-channel technology, I would like to talk what this technology means to business. For our company, for NVIDIA, omni-channel approach is primarily an opportunity to provide a technology which never existed in our case before, which allows us to have an access to unlimited range of products, because at the level of one store you can have full range of products. With the relevant motivation of your sellers, you can come to any store in NVIDIA and to see the unlimited access to the product range. Another thing about pricing, we actively promote the best price guarantee. Effectively, it's an opportunity, it's a service which allows a person who visits our store to compare prices with major competition. We compare apples with apples, not apples with oranges. We compare only players, honest players who are true on who honor their obligations. It may be about a list of 100 companies across the country. And if prices for similar goods at our competition are lower, then the seller has a right to sell our product at the price of a competitor. And this allows us to behave in this way, this omni-channel approach.
To the next topic is, this one. Retailers have three main challenges addressing the omnichannel. One of the highest is about transportation. The others are delivery and inventory, managing the inventories. I'd like to turn around to Alexei Nemirik on Moscow City. How Moscow address these highly urban topics as transportation, logistics? What are the policies from Moscow to help trades within the city from these new operations of the omnichannel?
Спасибо за вопрос, но
Thank you for your kind attention. And indeed, retailers would be the better speakers on that particular topic as they are concentrating their efforts on the omni-channel commerce as well. And they minimize the load onto the urban transportation system. And such serious players at the market are not afraid of a competition, and they are ready to provide any kind of information so that a person doesn't look for some better price and for some better stores and better goods. And indeed, the major part of customers just find the option via an internet and then make a decision whether to buy these goods or not. And logistics becomes really very essential. And a person should rely to the offline or online resource and make his final decision and select various goods. And Olga spoke about some shelves. You may come and you may select what is really needed. But indeed, in this particular case, we are talking about some obvious opportunity and advantage to a customer. Normally, during weekends, large supermarkets are visited by the customers, and it may bring about the transport collapse on the weekends. And sometimes on Saturday, streets are really packed and jammed even more intensively than during the weekdays. And indeed, the delivery of goods during this period is growing for business offices, for families, for households, and people do prefer to have it this way. And this trend from the perspective of the professionals is obvious that the delivery is provided to a particular place and on a specific point of time. Thank you so much.
Any reaction to what was just said? Now we go on to the next topic, which is the high cost of associated with omnichannel sales. We see that the main point is the returns. Does that mean that technology is not so predictive yet?
That's not a question of technology, it's a question of products. When you are buying a product and the product is not in link with what you want, you just need to be able, when we are online, to get back the product. The big point the next years will be for the retailers, online or offline. For me, that's exactly the same, because basically we are not focusing of online or online. We're focusing on the consumers and how much the consumers is buying offline or online, depending any channel. The big problem and the big things is what will the consumer get for what he's paying, and is the process going well or not? On the back, you don't have two chances. You just have one. You are trying, it's going well. You, let's say, SAV, the after-sale department is doing well when you have a problem. You are coming back to this seller without any problem. You have a problem, you don't come back anymore. That's the big point. Concerning the technology, how many retailers online are really using the technology of prediction? Not so many for the moment. We had in 2015 a huge amount of data uploaded on internet. Something like 30 times all around the earth of DVD. So it's a huge line. 80% of this data were not used. 95% were not organized. So it means that people are basically having a lot of data, but for the moment they don't know how to use this data. Many of your companies, and I'm sure that's the same for all of you, you have a lot of data about your consumers, but still for the moment you don't know, you don't have the technology, you don't have the time, or perhaps the money, because you need a question of scale to use all this data to target the consumers as it needs to be done. It's just a question of time. That's why you are having this data for the moment, because tomorrow you will be able to do it. And that's how it's working.
How do you address the data, Olga?
Yes, we do address the data, but we know how to manage it. But the situation might be much better if we do actively just develop CRM capabilities. Yes, we have an abundance of data, but we have a unique program of loyalty. We have 18 million clients, and 6 million of those who are the most active ones, who at least bought one good from the internet. And we know everything about these customers. The another question arises is, what are the capabilities within the company? What is the human capital of that company? And how these staff may provide offers, create some marketing ideas. And on the whole, this is a really great subject to be developed at the Russian market, and how to process the data. And they are well developed in telecom and at the level of the banking services. And I'm absolutely positive that the future is there, specifically vis-a-vis those actions made by the person online. You may just keep track of that client, and you may develop and redevelop the client on a more efficient way. And the question arises, what are those costs we are incurring? I would like to add one more thing, not vis-a-vis the data, but other factors. The Russian market is a unique one, and the cash and delivery is the predominating scheme for the commerce. And of course, it shapes up a certain behavior of a customer. But if you prepay something, there are not so many refunds. And yes, we really know what are those trends for development, and how the market players are moving towards logistics, towards the more user-friendly model for the return of special goods.
Я могу сказать, что
Yes, indeed, we have to take into account those numbers, but these are the average numbers, though they are really high. And they reflect various categories of goods, the models of the behavior of a customer, and therefore the indicators may be different. And if we speak about the percentage of reclamation of goods, much depends on the quality of the product, much depends on the model, no name. We speak about the Russian brands, and the percentage of such return may be really high. And the Chinese manufacturers also included in the margin of a retailer the potential refunds, and much depends on the channels and on their appropriateness. And if we speak about some remote areas, so the customers may not necessarily be really very demanding, but on the other hand, they may agree to some deficiencies and to some problems which might accompany the purchase of certain goods. And if we speak of some gauges and dimensions of goods, that may be another problem. And if we speak about the service, we really have to improve it. And these are the component parts of the success for the service and for the brands. And sometimes the clients value service more relatively to the large-sized goods. And we are not talking necessarily about the how we sort out goods, how we package goods. But really they value the service of a specific store. And therefore the numbers are average, and we really have to be more keen on a specific category of goods. In practical terms, I should say a few words about the delivery. Smartphones and mobile phones are not a problem. Logistics is not a problem, and they just use various types of deliveries, even via air, and really this is not the category to speak about the sophisticated logistics. And I would like to say a few words about ozone and the return, which is about 8%. But for us, it's a problem, and we see a potential for the improvement of the entire system. And we really have it in the pipeline. And that is one of the points how to improve the business. And big data information, yes, that is an essential factor. I fully agree with Jean-Christophe. But if we are talking about millions and millions of customers, and if you know everything about a customer, their location, how much do they buy, what is their bill, which is the average bill, and everything related. So this is essential for us. We, as people, use our brains and use our brain capacity, and thanks God, every week we have some improvements, and you may send a letter to ladies, to young girls who bought some eye cream, and Tatiana, you bought this cream, probably you are running off it, and maybe you'd rather buy one more bottle. And that is a very simple but very successful way of interacting with the customer who got a very good result upon the purchase of the eye cream. And we really have to have a segmented and individual approach. Logistics is another focal point of ours, and probably a year ago you heard that next day you will have those goods delivered, but sooner or later it will be next hour it will arrive, and that is our prerogative, and that is the focal point of our business on how to improve logistics and delivery.
The last question, we are running out of time. 65% of the consumers felt frustrated by inconsistent experience across the channels of one retailer. How do you address this, and what is your customer experience culture in each one of your companies?
Ну, я, наверное, первой возьму здесь.
I will be the first to answer this question. Our philosophy always has been that we must provide a universal experience, single experience. And as a result of that, for several years in a row, across our channels, both offline and online, we outpace the market growth across the country. Although there were many players, offline players, who switched to omni-channel approach, they provided some price preferences. As a result, effectively, the sales are switched from one channel to another without the company growing. We talk offline and online, but there is a mobile channel. Do not forget about that. Where do you put it, offline, online? Well, your phone that you carry with you. For a shopper means differently. He doesn't mean in the same concept, in the same categories. Well, he still bought the product in NVIDIA. Sometimes he doesn't even remember the channel. And there is a promo action, some marketing activity works online but doesn't work offline, and well, there will be naturally complaints. It's a common rule with us, and it's one main source of growth. The experience should be a single one. If for some reason technologies do not allow us to launch some activity or some promo actions across all channels simultaneously, we do not launch such promo action at all. We're very strict here. If we talk about our company, we make two things. Firstly, it's very important that any disappointment of the shopper was taken care of on time. If it's a simple problem and the shopper waits for an hour to resolve that, if there is a more sophisticated problem which requires a day or a week, then we take a day or a week, but we should be in line with the shopper's expectations in terms of timing of settlement of the problem. And secondly, we understand that we have around 1,000 shops, internet shops, and we always try to solve the problem ourselves. We advise our shoppers to approach our contact center, and if they are not able to resolve the problem with one of our stores, we just compensate these losses to the shopper because we cherish our reputation very high. That is the shopper value, where a small market player is underpinned by a major market player who will be able to resolve any problem. I like this slide immensely. Thanks that exist. This 65% should not be frustrated by offline. Less frustration. Well, buy online anything. Do not keep staying in traffic jams. It will make your life much easier. There will be less frustration. I'm sure that the life will improve for the 65%.
We'll handle the last question to you, Jean-Christophe. What is the next innovation for retailers? Can you have a scoop for us?
For retailers or for consumers? Artificial intelligence, definitely. But you know, that's two big things I think that will arrive. Very shortly we will have in many retailers people using augmented and virtual reality to augment the consumers' experience, let's say, in many kind of markets. When you are buying some clothes, if you are not able to feel the clothes on you and to know exactly how it will fit on you, you will not go buying online. But now technology is making you able to do that. But if you are looking at medium term, and medium term for me that's 15 years, definitely the big deal in good and bad way is artificial intelligence, because exactly what is happening, that's exactly what you saw in the movie Her. You know, this personal assistant, when you see what is happening with Siri, Cortana, Alexa, Vic, we don't care the name. Basically what is developed is a personal assistant to help you in any kind of way of your life. Everywhere you are arriving in your home, it will be there. You are arriving in your I don't know, in your shop. They will help you about the price, what's the best price at the best moments. You will not have to ask or to go somewhere else. They will give you the price at the moment. It means that as retailer, you are losing the link with the consumers. You can't anymore be only inside these fake words of marketing, communication. You need to be true, you need to be right, you need to create something different. And that's because of artificial intelligence. And that will be a very big deal for many companies who don't understand the consequences on themselves and by definition on consumers' behaviors.
Thank you very much. The next topic should be about authenticity then. Thank you very much each one of you, and have a good day.
Thank you. Спасибо.